I want to start by thanking Adult Education for inviting me to this forum. It helped me personally gather my thoughts and put a little focus on what had happened last weekend. And I appreciate doing that because you all helped me. And I have a lot of gratitude for Peace and Social Concerns for donating the money for transportation. It was such a quick leading for me that it just came upon me, and the next thing I know, I'm flying to Minnesota. So again, I want to thank everyone for making this happen for me. It has been very transformational, and I'm only beginning to know how that has affected me. I picked up a little sign there. It says, honor the treaties, and we are all treaty people. And what that means is that it was our descendants, those of us that identify as white of European descent, it was our descendants that made those treaties with the native people. And it is our responsibility to remind the government law that these treaties need to be honored. And that's really, I feel like, where we can come into this scenario. And it's a very law-abiding legal way. I mean, there are treaties. These are contracts with, agencies, with the government, with a whole group of people. So let me just start by sharing my screen and sort of maybe walk you through. I know people are curious about what happened. So let me go do that. And I put together a little PowerPoint presentation. Let's start from the beginning. So this is the logo from the website, and I didn't really understand the name about Treaty People Gathering. And like I said, it became more clear to me. So here's my friend, Kristen Becker, and this is the two of us at the action. And to the left, you can see this black tube, and that is a creative sculpture of the pipeline. And I'm sorry to say I didn't get the front of the tube where it's got like 3 different tentacles coming out. They refer to this as the black snake. And you can see the beautiful artwork that was created by multiple groups of people. These signs were silk screened and put on banners and assembled at camp. So here we are, we're all waiting to march. And so I'm sort of getting you in the middle. Let's start back at the beginning. So here's camp. This is the camp that is on White Earth Reservation. I think it might be where they have powwows. And you see one of these tents that holds about 500 people. There were 2 of these tents. And they were put up so we could do our learning and teaching, and so that people could stay out of the sun. It was amazing. There was no rain, and earlier, as I was looking at the weather, it looked like there might be some rain. We had clear skies and a lot of heat. We had August heat in June, which was sort of like Texas. So it wasn't that bad. It was a little more humid. You can see there's a stage, and there was always some sort of MC up there. There was music, there was drumming, there were people talking, there were elders up there. The entrance to the camp is a little bit to the all the way to the left of the screen. You can sort of see some two people there. Parking was on the other side. This is an elder named Dawn, and she was our MC when we got there. Introduced a lot of individuals that first day, which we got to camp on Saturday, and at about 4 o'clock, there was a prayer, and then there were speakers, and then we had dinner, which was also an interesting process of feeding 1,000 people, and it went very well. There was plenty of food. There were things like soup, salad, and watermelon, and many people brought their own plates. We had compostable plates. There were places to put your trash. I mean, what really struck me is that there was certainly a festival feel to the event, but of course, no drugs and alcohol. And everyone was of one intention. Our intention was to stop line 3. And we didn't know how we were going to do that. What was really amazing is they never really told us until Sunday at about 6 o'clock. We were going to go to the action on Monday. So we were all there knowing that we were going to do something, but not really knowing what that was. There had been, of course, preparation documents, but they didn't spell out what it was we were going to do. So that also, this idea that we're here to do something, we don't know what it is, but we know it's powerful. And here was another, so you can see the stage to the left, another angle. There's a barn back there. That white truck is the indigenous environmental network, and that was the truck that they recorded a lot of things out of. They actually gave us we used an airwave. We used an FM airwave as we all caravans, and they were explaining, okay, you know, kind of helping people along how to get there. So this was part of an area that we gathered, and this is, it looks to me like everyone's eating. So this was probably dinner, I think, because of the way the shade is coming through. And this is what dinner looked like. You can see some people have their tents in the background. They were all over in different areas. We were in another area, but it was all sort of surrounding this main area. The really amazing thing was that there were so many different groups of people there. There were young people, LGBTQ, and there were elders. There were, we found a few Quakers. There were people that had done lots of different kinds of protests and people that had never done one before. And it really, really felt fabulous. And what you can't see in the air, which was the most amazing thing to me, was the dragonflies. The dragonflies were everywhere. And they were magical to me. And I don't know if you know about, you know, the metaphysical meaning of dragonflies, but I do believe animals represent things. And so it was intention, change, you know, positivity in the eye of things not looking so good, you know, like what's in front of you may not be what you want, but there's hope. So it was really amazing that they were there. My friend who I was with from Minnesota said, oh, they eat mosquitoes. Well, that's good too. And I didn't see any of those giant mosquitoes that people talk about. They don't really like me, but I did bring home a tick. So that was not that good, but I managed that. So let's see. So this is some of the artwork. That to me, again, was one of a very profound act for direct action. You need a lot of different aspects that are all focused on one thing. And artwork was very, very important. And as you can see, I asked about like who made these, and they weren't screening anything at the time, but some of the colleges in the area had screened these. And then the sticks were all painted different colors, and then they were drilled onto the cloth was drilled onto 2 pieces of wood, and then those 2 pieces of wood were drilled onto the sticks, and they were about 8 feet tall. So it was significant. You could hold those signs up and they could be seen. And also the use of the colors, the same colors that they used, on all of them. And the clear message, even though they were done with different kinds of artwork, everything said stop line 3. That was the mantra, stop line 3. And I just love them. I thought they were fabulous. And here's some others. Again, stop line 3. And treaty people, that was another message, a very clear message, because it's illegal. It's legal to say the Native people need to be able to fish, hunt, travel, and gather. So the traveling part is important, because if they're being blocked for certain areas, they can't harvest, for example, the wild rice. On the rivers, the wild rice is just growing wild. There's a certain season where only Indigenous people who have a particular license permit are allowed to go in, and it's done very equitable, and it's a tradition that's passed down. I was listening to some video about time for her son harvest the wild rice. So and then the gathering is like what we were doing, you know, traveling and gathering, and then being able to hunt and fish. For example, the treaty is that Native people can hunt and fish. So a Native person is out fishing, and the warden comes up and says, "Where's your license to fish?" And they say, I'm an Indigenous person. It's in my treaty. I'm allowed to fish. Well, here's your ticket. So they give them a ticket because they don't have a license. So there's all of this that is part of the treaty that needs to be honored. So there you see, there's the pipeline. I was standing, and this is looking back. So I'm standing where, kind of like where the shadow, right in front of that shadow. So let me kind of walk back to Sunday. So Saturday was opening prayer, opening comments, stories, drumming, songs, food, meeting people. And then Sunday, we began our training, and they wanted us to think about what group we wanted to be in. There's a red group that was definitely going to get arrested. Their intention was to get arrested. They were going to do whatever they needed to do to be arrestable, and they were putting their bodies on the line. The yellow group was, I don't really necessarily want to get arrested, but I'm willing to take a little bit more risk. So I'm going to be a yellow group. I'll be ready to be arrested if I have to, but if I can kind of move out of the way and not be arrested, I'll do that too. So that was a yellow group. And then there was the green group. The green group were people that did not want to be arrested, and were going to not take that risk. So because the action was 1,500 miles away from my home, I decided that it was not the time and place for me to put my body on the line, although it was really hard to not want to and feel as if it's time for me as a white person to put my body on the line for people of color, for the treaty, for whatever it takes. But I knew that there would be other times, that this was the beginning of an adventure for me. And I needed to be in that space to make that decision and to just sort of feel my way. So Sunday, we broke off into groups. We learned about what is our right. If you're arrested, these are the things that might happen to you. This is probably, you know, what we have been seeing, you know, and they could only go by, because these, you have to remember that people of color, that the Indigenous people have been putting their body on the line for almost a decade. They have been working on this pipeline issue for almost a decade. And so what they had seen misdemeanor of trespassing, gross misdemeanors of blocking, other kinds of trespassing. And then they told us, like, this is what will happen. This is how much it will cost. This is what you need to do. And then they talked about talking to cops. What do you say to cops? Nothing. They talked about there being police liaisons who would be wearing something, a certain vest, and that if the police continue to want to engage us, we would say, you need to talk to a liaison. If they told us, in other words, just, I invoke my right to not speak. And, that's just what you had to say. Well, and they also taught us songs and chants, which was amazing, how quickly a group of people can learn and sing in unison. And those would be things that we would chant and sing at the march. And then they gave us some amazing artwork, again, that had been silk screened. There were scarves to wear, and then patches to put on your back, on your backpack. And everyone got a scarf and a patch to wear at the action. So that, and then they had us break out into the red, yellow, and green groups, and they told us what we were going to do. So the red group was going to actually break into Enbridge's easement. So along this public road, Enbridge had created easements which they had gated off. And those easements were created so that they could bring their big trucks out to the edge of the water and drill big holes and, shove pipe down underneath the water. Okay. And they hadn't done this yet in Minnesota. They had worked in, maybe South Dakota? They'd been in South Dakota. So this is actually like the last part they need to do in order to get out to Lake Superior to, take their dirty, filthy oil over to China so that they can refine it, because really nobody in the US wants to do it, and either sell it to the Chinese or bring it back here and sell it to us. And this is a Canadian company doing this with no benefit to the US and endangering our land and breaking treaties. So interestingly enough, those folks were going to go occupy. And then the yellow people were going to cross the bridge. So the action was going to take place on one side of the bridge. And they were going to cross onto the bridge and do a chalk drawing, which I'll later show you. And the bridge is the bridge over the Mississippi, which at this point, because this is where the spring, the fountain head of the Mississippi is about 4 feet wide, maybe 5 feet, and thigh high deep. And let me say, it's ice cold and beautiful. We got into the water and it was fabulous. So on the bridge, they were going to do this chalk drawing, and those people were the yellow people because, the cops might have come and said, you can't do that. You need to get off the bridge. And then there were green people who were going to stay on the other side of the bridge, not cross over the bridge, where we were having a rally. And there were going to be people speaking. They were going to do a water blessing. There would be some chanting, some singing. And that was how they divided up our jobs. So we got in a caravan with red, yellow, and green in the back, and we marched around the camp. It seemed kind of silly, but then, the red broke off and they went over there, and the yellow went over here, and then the green went over here. And, we just sort of went through what was going to happen. And that was Sunday night. So, we finally found out what we were doing. Well, there were actually 2 actions. We were called Jelly Roll, and that was considered the public action. But there was actually another action that we didn't know about, except by name. It was called Marmalade and Peanut Butter. And Marmalade and Peanut Butter were going to go to another location, but we didn't know what they were going to do. So in the morning of the action, we had our ETA, our time to leave. We were all going to caravan out of the parking lot at our camp and follow one another about an hour to the site. Well, the marmalade and peanut butter people left early. Later, we found out that their action was near a place called Grand Rapids, Minnesota, where they brought a boat called Good Trouble, and they dragged it onto the property, and some people were locked down to the boat. They locked down themselves to the machinery. They stopped work for that day. Enbridge had to send home about, 24 employees. And at one point, the U.S. Border Patrol of Canada began flying low and buzzing the people, buzzing dust and dirt up, telling them they had to leave. And I'm thinking somewhere around 200 people got arrested. I'm not sure the exact number. I heard 100, and then later I heard 200. So that was going on while we were doing the more public rally. So because we were having a rally, they had gotten a permit. So when we got to the location, we saw one sheriff car, and they were blocking the road. And then there was another sheriff car at the end of the road. I guess it was maybe 2 or 3 miles that we were blocking this road. And they got a permit, so we could stand in the street. So it became apparent that there was no way anybody was going to get arrested, yellow or green, at this particular event. And it was more of a rally. It was an amazing opportunity to get great footage, to get 1,500 people out to a rural spot in northern Minnesota to gather and say, stop line 3. So that's what was so amazing about it. So the Red, as they marched on, they realized that they had electrified the gate of one of the easements. So they had to sort of think, well, what are we going to do now? And so, okay, so here's the caravan. I should have been showing you the pictures as we were going. Here's the caravan. I can't tell you how many cars. If there was 2 to 4 people in each car, and there was about 1,000 people going out there. There were people coming from other locations too. There were other camps. There was a Green Faith camp where they were coming to do a prayer vigil at another location, but we're going to come join the, the group. So that's why probably about 1,500 people we were thinking. Okay, so this is part of the rally. So as we were doing the rally, the Red people were figuring out what they were going to do, because what they were going to do, they couldn't. The Yellow group was on the bridge, and they were making their artwork. And we were gathering, well, everyone gathered first for the water ceremony and the blessing and the peace pipe, and the pipe that was being passed around. And then we went and did our action. Let's see what this is. Oh, and guess who showed up? Jane Fonda. Jane Fonda showed up, and she spoke. Roseanne Arquette showed up. Winona LaDuke was there, of course, and I had an opportunity to meet her when we were standing in the Mississippi River. She was amazing. But there's Jane. And so this is looking at the back of the people that we, okay, so this is the bridge. I don't know if you can see over here, it says Mississippi River right there. So that's where the bridge was. And here is what it looks like on the other side of those people. This is the bridge. This is the sign. And this is the chalk work that is on the ground. And here you see it from one of the various drones that were going over us. You can get a lot of great pictures online. I obviously did not take this. I should have noted who did, but this is just a private little thing. So Biden honored the treaty, stop line 3, and there was actually a second one. So the bridge was pretty long, and these would have been the Yellow people. Okay, let's see what's next. So as we were I was standing by the tents of the speakers, and as you can see that the people who are in the water there, that's actually the Mississippi. Like I said, it's just a little stream, and people are standing in the Mississippi. And if you look in the back, what the red people decided to do was to cross on the other side of the Mississippi and walk onto Enbridge's property. And they just started walking, and they figured out at some point that they wanted to create a camp there and occupy. And so that's what they did. And I believe they're still there. And they've called this encampment Firelight Camp. And there are also people, when we got back, they gathered people that wanted to stay longer, and they said, if you're staying tonight and you want to take supplies, this is what we need for the people who are out on the Enbridge. They want to camp there. They need provisions. They need charging packs. They need tents. And so people brought tents to them. They made an encampment, and they also, anyone who wanted to camp along the easement of the road, they were doing that as well as support and backup. So personally, when I saw the people walking, my heart got so big. It got so big, and it was so emotional for me to see that. And we were singing on the other side, and it just, I'm feeling it all over again. It was really, really amazing, y'all. Okay, let me go. That's a little, just let me go back. Okay, I just want to see if there's anything I'm leaving out. I don't think so. I'm sure there'll be questions. So I do have a video. I thought, I mean, it's only 10:30. This was something, well, I do want to share that there was a really great packet of information before, once I signed up. They gave us a lot of background information. So I have videos, I have sort of promotional marketing for, like, why do you want to get involved with Line 3? And I have lots of videos of what has been going on, people chaining themselves to cars that are upside down, blocking the road so that the trucks can't go through. There's also some great PDFs that can be printed out on how do you do a direct action? What do you do when you're arrested? And that outline everything. So they've really created a packet of how do you do what we're doing, almost like, you know, the protest guide. Lots of great stuff. And so I think we have time to watch this video. This is Thomas X, and you can find this on YouTube. This is the 7 teachings, which are kind of like our testimonies, right? So I thought y'all would enjoy. Oh, and I hope, I don't know if you're going to be able to hear it, so that might be an issue. I'm going to play it. If you can't hear it, let me know. Oop, nope. I thought I was.
Andrea, this is where the little checkbox comes in. When you share the screen, there's a little checkbox says share computer sound or something like that.
Yeah,
That's
I got it.
what you may need to start the recording over again and check
Well,
that.
it hasn't started yet. I have to put it in my, I didn't embed it properly. That's just a screenshot. So let me see.
So you have to unshare first, because you can't get to the checkbox unless you share again.
Okay, let me do that. Stop share. And then where is that?
Well, first you click the share screen button, and before you select the thing you're going to share, you look for that little checkbox. Yeah, see, it comes and goes. That's the problem with it.
Files.
That's what I'll be speaking, because what I got to say to you right now is very intriguing. Talking about the ways of the Ojibwe people that seem to be leaving. Yes, of course. I'm talking about the...
Okay, so did you hear that?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah,
great.
But if you can check for that checkbox, it may be better if you can check that on.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it didn't come up. So,
well, Andrea, listen for just a second. When you click the share screen button, there is a screen that shows you all the things you can share. And at the bottom of that screen, that's where the checkbox is.
Okay.
If you don't check it then and you select something to share, then it goes away.
Okay. Share sound. Okay. Optimize for video clip. Didn't give me that.
Yeah, don't worry about that.
Okay. So
Share the sound is what you want to do.
I have a green screen. Okay. Share.
Sounds like you're in the settings though. That's not where you need to be. You just need to start the share.
It says share sound, so.
Okay, you're good.
Okay, let's see now if I can get back to where I was with all this stuff on my screen. I think I was. Dang it. All right, let me find what I need to find. Let me go back here, copy and paste this in to. Oh, there we are. All right, I'm getting there, y'all.
Kick back, listen and chill to what I be speaking, because what I gotta say to you right now is very intriguing. I'm talking about the ways of the Ojibwe people that seem to be leaving. Yes, of course, I'm talking about the 7 teachings. So what are the 7 teachings? Number 1, respect. Respect is something that we seem to neglect, and if you take a look at the world, it's starting to have a big effect. So maybe we should all take a look in the mirror and put ourselves in check, because the world could be a lot better place if we showed each other some more respect. Number 2, truth. Truth is something that I should be spitting in the booth. Truth is something that could be easy to take or harder than your tooth. Truth is something that people claim they have all the way through the roof, but it's also something they forget about when they get caught in a coup. Truth is something that we gotta learn to express. It's gotta come through our hearts and our chests, not so much through our brains when we stress. Number 3, wisdom. Wisdom is something you obtain when you sit down and listen. And to obtain it, some of my people went to college and some of my people went to prison. But to have wisdom is to know that you have a gift and a reason, and you maximize on it and utilize it all 4 seasons. Just know that you have a gift. Number 4, honesty. Honestly, to be honest, it ain't like reading a book or learning Ebonics. It's kind of like learning how to be true, to hold and to keep your promise. To be honest is to speak from your heart and to leave your head. You pick apart the dark and don't speak when your vision is red. Number 5, humility. Humility is to be humble. And to be humble is to keep it together when everything seeming to crumble. Like you in the pitch black dark in the middle of a jungle. But when adversity comes your way, you're ready to rumble. And if you get knocked down, you get up again after you tumble. Because there's been times in my life where people tried to belittle me. It was in those moments I had to express my humility. Number 6, courage. To be courageous is to do the right thing when you have every opportunity to do what's wrong. So I gotta take the opportunity to say good things inside of my songs. I gotta talk about what's really real and what's really going on. But to be courageous is to do the right thing. And you pick apart the darkness to see the happiness the light brings. If you do what's right, you find your own light. And number 7, love. Love. It ain't always a white wedding and flying doves, but it's something we can express to each other because we have those feelings for the ones that are above. Love is something that I'm wishing to see. Love is something that the Creator gave to us unconditionally. Love is something as simple as saying, Gizage in, which means I love you. In Ojibwe Moen. Aho. The 7 teachings.
Okay, I think I stopped sharing my screen. Are there any questions?
So Andrea, is there anything else that we can do now after this event, and what would that be? And yeah.
Oh, well, then I'll have to share my screen again because I just realized that was the last slide.
Unfortunately, your screen didn't show. We just heard the volume.
Oh, y'all didn't see the
Yeah,
video?
we didn't see it, but we heard it, and it was very nice.
No. Well, you know what? I'm going to be at potluck, so hopefully, I don't know. Sorry, y'all. Okay, so I need to share my screen for the last, let's see. Slides as a virtual background. I don't know. See, this is the problem. Something came up. I had something like virtual background. All right. And I don't have time to figure this out. So yes, let me tell you, there's several websites to go to, and there right now there is at stopline3.org. Stopline, and maybe I can put these in the chat. Let me try to do that. Some websites to go to, but Stopline3. Let's see, put that in the chat. Here we go. Okay. All right, so I just put in the chat, Stopline3, take action. There's actually a what do you call it? Where you sign something, one of those. Yeah, you can sign a petition. There you go. There's the word, and it's going to get to Biden. They gave us a bunch of phone numbers, but when you called them, they weren't working. They were like, "Oh, sorry, we've disconnected the climate hotline." Oh, great, thanks. So I guess they didn't want to hear from us, or they were getting too many calls. So you can sign that petition, and on June 21st, there's going to be a ruling with the appeals court of the civil engineers that they've said we need to stop this because it's bad for the environment. There'll be a ruling. They're going to also start drilling on the end of the month. So that's really why all this is going on. I feel like there's going to be more action. So those are some, and there's some Instagram sites that are pretty good that I felt I think, you need to be on Instagram. Maybe that's not your thing, but Instagram is a quick, easy way for people to share images. So on Instagram, Honor the Earth, Indigenous Rising, and of course, Winona LaDuke's Instagram. I just put that in the chat. And if you're on Facebook, Rise Coalition is showing videos every day, update videos of what's going on at the Firelight Camp. So those are just a few that I gathered together. And once you start digging, you'll find more. But I would say going to stopline3.org and take the action of signing the petition would be the best thing to do right now. Are there any other questions?
I have another one no one asked. You said there were other Quakers that were there. How did you identify each other, and how that happened? And how many did you meet?
Well, that's a good question because we did run into Buffy. She's from New York. I forget her last name, but she and her partner are going to be doing a workshop with Paula Palmer at FGC. And she does work around Indigenous, I guess you would call it, well, the work that Paula does, working with decolonization, helping people understand it, doing workshops on what we can do to bring forth that. and she was there, and Richard Fuller from Twin Cities was there, and he was one of the secret mission people that got arrested. So we didn't see him later, but Kristen Becker knew him. There were a lot of people from the Twin Cities area, just individuals. I heard there were going to be other Quakers there, but I didn't run into them. So I had brought a name tag, but then nobody else had name tags. So I was like, I don't need to identify. And we didn't run into the Green Faith group. They were at another campsite, and they were the ones that were going to be doing a prayer vigil at some location, and then they were coming out together. So it was kind of hard to run into. I did run into somebody I knew from Austin who is no longer living in Austin, and so that was kind of cool. But to run into somebody, it would have just being at the right place at the right time, and then asking, "Hey, who are you?" And then, "Oh, I'm a Quaker too." So that might have been how it would have happened.
Me. Can I stick something in? I'm sorry I missed parts of this, so you might have discussed this, but I remember when I had contact with indigenous movements, in particular American Native people, one of the things I learned from them is that a nation is not necessarily defined by territorial boundaries. And as a matter of international law, it's possible to have a nation within somebody else's territorial boundaries. And that's the situation that American Native folk find themselves in. And, given that thought, this is all about a treaty violation, right? So what we're talking about, it can be argued that this is not civil disobedience. This is nonviolent civilian defense. There's a difference. You may have been breaking laws, but you were breaking laws in furtherance of defending
Right.
national rights. National rights. So it's civilian defense.
Yeah,
anyway,
that's what they
just
said.
a thought.
You're not. Yeah, they say you're not breaking any laws. This, you're not trespassing. So that is, it's kind of it kind of flips on itself, because by honoring the treaties, we're not breaking laws. It may look to you like we're breaking laws because we're occupying, but this is treaty land. And as Native people, we are allowed to travel and gather. So that's the piece that feels really real. It feels like, you go to the Supreme Court and it's like, well, yeah, I guess you are, in your right. So knowing your rights within those that convoluted storyline. So yeah, I think it's pretty cool. It's like when the Native person is fishing and they're saying, I don't need a license. This is my right. Oh no, you need a license because this is the law. So it's like, well, whose law and right am I under as a Native person? Because this was made, I don't know, 170 years ago. We're talking to 1855. These laws were made. 200 years, So it is interesting. And that's why I feel like it should go to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, my first nonviolence training was in the 60s in the civil rights movement, and they got it from the Gandhian movement. And then I was involved in things in 70s, 80s, 90s, and it struck me that things had changed a little bit because the focus on civil disobedience was a little stronger. And I was never real comfortable when discussions began with, what kind of civil disobedience should we do? You're right. The concept, it seems, that I'm more comfortable with is when we discuss what's right and what's just, and whether we are willing to face the consequences of their deciding it's civil disobedience. So that's why, I sort of think the question of is it civil disobedience or civilian defense is important from the point of view of participation.
Mm-hmm.
Just a notion.
Yep. I just want to say that I feel like this action was a kickoff. it was a kickoff for the continued, experience of more actions to follow, more pockets of resistance. And it was, like I said, to get 1,500 people out to rural northern Minnesota and, to a rally or whatever, was great because it made a good presence. It was definitely good for marketing and to get the word out, to get the coverage. We're just starting now to see the coverage roll out. Oh, wow, 200 people arrested so far, 1,500 people. That's significant. It's not like 1,500 people in New York City. You get that on a Sunday afternoon in the park or whatever. So I think it's significant, and the images are powerful. And that's the thing about a direct action, which might be different from civil disobedience, is that a direct action has a multi-focus. It has different parts of it that are working together. And that's what I felt when I experienced being there, was that we were of one mind. And you've got the artwork, you've got the song, you've got the videos, you've got the newspaper, you've got the Indigenous Environmental Network following this and broadcasting it. So there's a lot going on around what might be called civil disobedience. So that's what's exciting to me. There's so many ways you can get involved versus, having to be there on the bus or be there, at the march. And I'm excited to see how this develops and to use this type of direct action in other regards here locally, working with other groups. There were a lot of people involved. If you go to the Treaty People website, there were a lot of people involved, supporters and sponsors. So it does take a lot of people with one mind.
So I think it's probably time to transition into worship if folks are ready to do that. So thank you so much, Andrea.
Yeah, I'll be coming to meeting and potluck, and I'll bring my computer and I'll share that the 7 teachings. And then just to say that there's a longer movie called The 7 Teachings of the Anishinaabe in Resistance. It's about 37 minutes long. Maybe we could make a movie night or something and have a discussion afterwards at some point.
Okay. Well, I'm going to stop the recording, and folks should feel free to settle into worship.